concepts are used. So let's start. Okay. So our language is Java. So let's see like what Java provides, right? Okay. Let me ask. Let's say that uh, we all know about key value pair, right? Let's say what is a key value pair? A key value pair is nothing like there is a variable and you could assign a value to it, right? So how do you create a variable? Let's say I'm saying there's a variable name. There's a variable name, right? It will hold what? It will hold the name of the people, right? Let's say Akhil Jain, let's say Abhilash, let's say Sangeeta, right? So it's a variable which will be holding the a value, right? So it's a variable name, and this variable name will be holding a value. Okay. Currently, I created a variable called name, and I will assign it a value. Let's say Akhil Jain. Okay. So what I'm doing here is this is a variable being created, and this is the value being assigned. Now, how many? I mean, what different types of inputs I could provide here? What is this? These are characters, right? These are like words here, right? We are providing alphabets here, right? So you could provide alphabets, right? Similarly, you could have numbers also, right? When I say alphabets, you could have two different things, right? Let's say you are just providing a single character, let's say A, right? Or you could provide the complete thing as Akhil, right? Similarly, in the case of numbers, there are a lot of things which you could assign to a variable. Let's say integer value, right? What are integer values? Let's say 0 to whatever that value are, right? The whole number. So you could provide that value. Let's say 99 and all that, right? You could do that. So one is this option. The second option is you could provide some decimal values. Let's say I am saying number equals to 9, number equals to 9.63, right? This is also again, right? If you have to create a program of finding the percentage, then you need something a variable which can hold this kind of a value, right? I mean, so these are your variables and these are your different types of inputs, right, which you're providing. Another thing could be, let's say you wanted to know in a form of true false, right? Whether the condition returned true, whether it is false, right? So there is a need to accept those values also, right? So what do we call such values? We call it as Boolean values. So Boolean values are what? True and false, right? People can understand in the form of 1 and 0, right? But again, it is not that every language says that okay, 1 means true and 0 means false. So right. So in case of Java also, it is true and false, right? So true means that the condition met, or false is like it did not met, right? We'll talk about more about this, right? So again, the part which I'm trying to focus here is, let's say these are A, Akhil, right? Similarly, there could be special characters also which you could provide, but again, those are alphabets only, right? Not alphabets, but those are characters, right? Special, let's say what I say, special characters like a tilde sign, backslash, and all that, right? So these are all characters. Now, and over here, right, I said decimal values, right? Decimal values, which are like 0, 1.9, and all that, right? So you could have so again, so what I'm trying to say is, let's take an example. Let's say that I gave you a program. I asked, okay, can you please create me a program which can mimic a calculator, right? And as part of that calculator, the display screen should show me my name also, right? And let's say that I am saying that there should be also a feature inside that calculator which can see whether let's say the calculator did some calculations, and I also manually did some calculation. What I'll do is, whatever result I have on based on my manual thing. So what I'm saying is there's a calculator here, right? There's a calculator, right? And here I will ask you to, let's say, to sum two numbers, right? Let's say 2 and 5. So the output of the calculator, based on the logic which it is designed with, let's say it added the number and said 7, let's say, right? And I also did this calculation manually on my piece of paper, and I found, okay, 2 plus 5 means 8. Okay. And then I'm saying, okay, can you please compare these two values and get me an output, whether it matches or not? So in this case, you will say whether the value match, true. If the value did not match, it should be false, right? So you can understand there could be needs, right, where you will have to work with different types of data, numericals, alphabets, special characters, boolean value, right? So there is a need. Now, why? And when we are talking about programming language, the intention of learning a programming language is so that you can code and write out the logic which can help you, design that processing logic, right, which is required for that calculator thing, right? Any doubt on this part? So one thing which you need in any languages, you need to know about the different data types a language supports. Okay, so what you need to know is you need to know about different data types which a language supports. This is the first part, right, of a language. Second thing is like assigning that data to a variable, right? So you have to know like how do you create a variable, right, inside a language. Again, different languages may provide different ways to do it, right? In Java, right? Now can someone tell me what is this Akhiljan? Let's say, is it a number? No, it's not a number, right? So in Java, right, we have two options. We have character, char, and we have string. What do you think could be this? Like Akhiljan is what? It's a character or it's a string?
String.
Right, string, right? When I say character, right, it means a single character. Let's say A,
Yeah.
right? So in Java, char represents a single alphabet character. Okay, it could be A, it could be small a, right? So if you want to assign a single character to a variable, so what you're doing is you're using a data type of char type, right? But if you are doing with more than one character, right, it becomes a string. Okay, let's say I write here on, right? So it's a string here because it is using two characters, right, more than one. So you will be, so what you need here is you need something here which can hold a string data type, right? In Java, there is a need that you have to specify what kind of data your variable will hold. Okay, so and how do you provide it? You need to provide the data type here. Okay, so if I want to hold a string data type, you will have to mention here before it that your name variable is of type string. And what does it mean is that name can hold a string value. Okay, a string value. That is what it means. You cannot assign it as one. Let's say it's an integer value, right? And if you have to collect, hold an integer value, what you should do is there's a data type for it, which is int. Let's say you provide int here, then you give a variable name, let's say I, and you will give a value to it less 5. Okay. Similarly, if there's a need to hold a decimal value, you have to know like which data type that variable should have. What is the data type? The data type are float and double. I will list down all the data types. I'm just giving some examples here so that you can understand. So if I want to hold a decimal value, you should give a data type as float. Let's say I gave it as j, and you will have to give 5.3, and there's an f after this. I'll come to this like what is f here, but understand if you're trying to create a float value, you have to give it an f after this. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, okay, just a second. Okay, sorry. Okay, so here, right? So we have this. So okay, now let me. So this is one thing, right, which you should understand. Like there are different data types you will have to deal with when you are doing some programming. Second, if you want to work with them, you would be needing to create some variables. Okay, you would be creating some variables and you would be assigning the values to those variables. And when you're doing it, you have to also provide the data type of it, right? Of the variable, which tells like what kind of values that variable will hold. Okay, third thing. Okay, or let me elaborate this further first. I believe, I think, okay, let me write it down. Now the let's say on the third part, right, what you should be knowing. See, when you are told to write some logic around things, right, there could be a need. Let's say you want to validate some condition. Let's say I gave you that uh, can you uh, let's say that I will ask you that can you please write me a program where I will provide you an age, right? An age of a person, and you have to tell me whether that person is a child, an adult, let's say with the range of 20 above, I mean, above the age of 18 to let's say 60, and after 60, if a person is after 60, let's say we have to say that it's a senior citizen. Let's say, right? We have three things: child, adult, and let's say a senior citizen. So what if you have to design a program for this, right? You would have to think, right, that how will I do it? Then like, because I am giving you only one input, which is the age. So there is a, you would think that okay, I need to check this number which I am receiving, which is, let's say, I provided 50, right? So computer does not know, right, what it has to do with that number. You will have to write it down as the logic. So what you'll do is you will write a logic. If you, let's forget about Java or anything, right? But let's try to understand. What I'm saying is, let's say this is a range, right? This is a range of age. This is 0, this is 18, this is 60, and this is above this, right? What I'm saying is, if I'm giving you an input of an age here, right? What if I provide that input? You have to say that it's a child, it's an adult, it's a senior citizen, right? Senior citizen. Now, how will you do it? You will have to first understand the logic you will implement. The logic is, you will check whatever value I receive, right, whether it fits here, or it fits here, or it fits here, right? And once you got that logic here, right, then you will start designing it. But what is the logic which we identified? We are saying, if this age, right, if this age is greater than 0 but less than 18, then I will say it's a child, right? But if it is greater than age, right? If the age is greater than 18 and is less than 60, I'll say it's an adult, right? And if it is greater than 60 only, right? Age is greater than 60, right? Then you will say it's a senior citizen, right? So this is the logic which you would identified, right? Now it is on you which language you're using to implement this, right? But here, right, you can see that you are checking a condition here, right? To check the conditional thing, right, in any language, right, you would find an option of if else. Okay, and if else. So these are what? These are conditional statements. Okay, conditional logics, whatever you want to say. So these are like if else. So if else is one thing. There's a switch statement which you could use, right? So let's just understand these two things, right? So there are two options of it. Now let's say that I give you a program to say that, okay, can you print a line? Let's, you remember, right, in our classes, in our old school days, but we, if we did some mistake, right, our teachers used to come and say that, okay, write on the board 100 times, I will not repeat it, right? So let's say I give you a program and I say, okay, as a punishment, please go and write this line 100 times. I will I will study Java, right? I will study Java sincerely, let's say, right? And I said you that please write it 100 times on the board, right? And you said, you came to me and said that, Akhil, I will not use board, I will use my computer. I said, okay. Then here also, let's say, how will you print this 100 times? You will say, Akhil, I will just use system.out.println, which helps me to print this, and I will add my code here, and I will write it 100 times. Perfectly fine, right? This is fine, right? You're able to achieve, you were able to achieve what was asked. But let's say I thought, okay, then I thought that, okay, you need to learn something more. So what I did was, as a punishment, I gave you 1,000, 10,000, right? Now what there's a need, you will have to copy paste again, right? These 10,000 times, right? So what you have to understand here is that the same thing is getting repetitive, right? It is getting repetitive here. For these kind of operations, right, there is a logic here of looping, right? You have to do a same thing multiple times, right? So for all these cases, there is a, what you have to do is you have to use loops. Now what are loops? You will find in every language, right? There's a for loop, there is a while loop, there are different variants of it, a while loop, a do while loop, right? And what else you can have? I think these are fine, right? Again, in most of the languages now, they you have different variants of for loop also, and in Java also we have two variants of for loop. We'll cover both of them. Okay, but you have to understand, one is this conditional statement, other is this loops, right, which you would be using in the Java language also, or in any language, right? You need these tools with you so that you could write some logic. So what did we learn? We understood, okay, there is a need to understand about data types. There's a need to understand how do you assign a value to a variable, right? Then there is a need to understand how to write conditional statements, which includes using if else and switch. There's a need to understand how to loop through things, which is for while do while, right? Let's increase the level, right? Now in every language, right, any language you use, there is a concept of, okay, I told you yesterday, I showed you, right? If you open up your this thing, right? Let's open this code, Fizula's code, right? If you go into the source directory, let's see that file, app Java, right? Now over here, see this. Fizula wrote this line, system.out.println, this line, right? This is her logic, right? Of printing the name, right? Now see where did she place it? It is definitely inside a class which is app, right? We'll talk about class. Okay, we have not covered it. We'll cover it, but try to understand, this line is sitting inside a method. Okay, it is sitting inside a method. It is not that it is sitting after line 9, which is outside a method and just inside the class. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you have to write your logic in Java, right, specifically, and I think it is true for every other language also, your logic, right, which includes like writing these names and all that, right? You All that logic has to reside inside a method only. Okay, it cannot be outside a method. So your method is like your boundary, right? The scope of that thing, right, which you have written. So it is like that. So you will have to need you will if you have to write a very simple logic also, you need a method. You will have to create a method first, and then you will add your logic inside that method. Okay, so there's a need to create a method. And where does the method resides? It resides inside a class. So the structure is, you will have to create a class first. Inside that class you will create a method, and within that method you will write your logic, whatever logic you want to create. And a single class can have n numbers of methods. Okay, there is no restriction around it how many methods you can have. And there are a lot of other things which goes inside a class. We'll talk about it, but on a general level, I'm saying this should work outside the method, right? Which should work outside the method? Line number 8.
No, if you just give curly braces and give system out outside the method, then
That
it
is a
will
block
still.
you're creating, right? You're creating a block there.
Okay, yeah.
You're creating a block there, right? So that is another way of putting your code. But tell me one thing: if I remove this line 5 to line 9 here, right, and just paste this line again, which is line number 8, will it run?
No, it will not.
It will not run, right? It needs a block, right? A method is a block. Okay, but again, I will not talk about block, at least once we understand the everything here. Okay, I think a lot of people would have not even used blocks here, and I think that is not even required for the understanding perspective. But you're right. But again, that also requires a block, right? It cannot be outside the block. Okay. Okay, so I hope everyone is getting that part, right? That you need to create a class. Inside the class, you will need to have a method. The method is a place where you will decide, you will keep your all your logic. Okay. Now, so what I told you is, let's go back here on the list of things which you have to understand. Data types, how to create variables, how to create conditional statements, how to create the looping part, right? How to create classes. We have to understand this. How to create methods inside the classes, right? And inside the method, how do you, I mean the logic part, right? It contains your logic, right? So that is understandable. Now you have created a class, you have created a method. How? So again, right, these are methods being created, right? Someone needs see what is happening here is, let's say this code, right? Over here I told you leave out. Okay, let me open my IntelliJ. Let me show you this. I think it will not make sense from here. Let me open the IntelliJ. Okay, just a second.
Akhil, you are on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Atul. So over here, right? If you would see, it is still loading. Let it load. It is still loading. Let's just wait for a minute more. Scanning files load. Okay, let it be. If you would check this, right? So this is our class which we created yesterday, Podtest, and this is the method which we created. It is not. Now it is done, right? This is the method which we created yesterday, right? I told you it's a magic method. Okay, so who is invoking this method? Our JVM is exposed is invoking this method. When I say invoking, right? Let's try to understand what I mean. Okay, because that is the next part which you have to understand inside a language, right? Just creating methods is not sufficient. Someone needs to use those methods, right? Only then your logic will get processed, right? Let's say I create a method, or let me do one thing. This is day one code, right? Okay, I did not push this. Just a second. Even I did not push it. Just a second. Just give me a sec. Let me do it in the right way. So this is my repo. Uh, GitHub test SDET5. Let me create my. I think I already created a repo. But let me create a repo here. I think it will be more. Let's go repository. And anyone who did not understood what Fizulah's mentioned, let's say, I'm repeating the steps, right? See here. Let me get a new repository. I will say fs java, and I said it as public. Sally for you specially, right? See here. Okay. Fs java. I
Yeah,
create a public repo, and let's say create repository, right? As soon as I did, I can see a repository being created under my account Podtest, right? And if I want to clone this is the path, right? But I don't need to clone this. What I need to do is I will first of all go inside the Java demo, which is this, and let me go to this folder structure first. I think we can go from here. Copy path reference. Open in Explorer. So it will open up the folder here, and let me check if it is a Git repo already. I think it is a Git repo. Let me see. Is it not? Okay, it is. Yeah, it is. It's a Git repo, right? It's a Git repo. So let me. So my terminal is opened up here, right? On the IntelliJ. See, I'm not opening Git bash now. Okay, I'm not opening Git bash, but it's a Git repo, right? So what you could do is just go to the terminal here, right? You can see a terminal here. Just type here Git status first. You can see the output here, right? It says, it tells me, okay, it got lost. Let me write it here. Git status. You can see it say that I am on master branch because this is what I created here, right? Because it's a local repo first I created, and I have these many changes to look after. I don't want to
so
do
you
any more.
created it within Podtest, right? So for everyone, it was same as you do right now.
No, no, you will. This is my account, right? This is my Podtest account. This is my repository, my GitHub account. You will created this repository under your account.
Yeah, that's
You will,
what it is. Yeah, I
yeah,
did that.
yeah, right. Okay, so that is what you have to do. Okay, what I'm saying next is, let me close this.
We did get status now, no?
Yeah, we did a Git status, and you can see like currently I'm on master branch. Let's cut a new branch, right? which branch I said? Day 2, right?
Yeah.
Let's make a branch as git checkout minus b day 2. Okay. Now I am on day 2 branch. Git status. I am on day 2 branch, and if I show you my remote repos, there is none, right? The output did not return anything, right? So there is no repo. Let me add these all these files. Git add. I did this, and after this I am saying uh, git commit minus m, and let's say c1, right? Again, when I say c1, right, it is just to explain, right? Otherwise, what you should normally do is, I think, as Fizula has mentioned in the group chat, right? Your message should be descriptive. It does not have to be very long, okay? But in a few words, if you can explain what exactly you're bringing here. Let's say you're working on a ticket, you can just mention Jira, whatever the ticket is, and then colon, and then you can specify what exactly are you adding as part of the ticket. Okay, you can be I mean, you can use some few words to mention. Let's say adding login test case, something around it, right? Updating, fixing a issue, fixing a bug, right? All of that, which can help anyone to understand from the commit message itself what exactly you did with that commit. Okay, now I made the commit, and now let me check again the remote. There is no remote yet, right? I have to add the remote. So what I'll do is git remote add. I'm giving an alias name origin, and I will go back to my repo there, which is here. I will copy this. I will go back, and I will paste it here. Okay, let's do this. Now let's run git remote again. Remote minus v. Okay, now you can see it is saying my remote branch has been, my remote repo has been, now my local repo is tracking this remote repo, which is here, right? Now what I have to do now, the only thing which is pending is I need to push it to the remote repo, right? You can see as of now the code does not exist here yet, right? On the remote. If I just reload this, there is nothing here as of now, right? Because I have not pushed it. I just told my local that there is a remote repo there. That's it. I need to make a push to make my changes available over there. So let's make a push now. Git push origin. Okay, let me do a status first just to check what I did here. There should not be anything. Git status. So again, nothing to commit because everything has already been committed. Let's just push git push origin, and the branch is day 2. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it says that it pushed it to this branch, and it now the local branch day 2 is tracking your remote branch, which is day 2. Let's see our code here. You can see, right? I can see a day 2 branch being created, right? Right, and you can see as part of this, right? No main branch was not created here, right? If you would have created a branch from here on the remote, right, it would have created a main branch first, and then it would have created a new branch, whatever you want to create. But since I did not create any new, added a new file or something, so it still shows day 2 here. Okay, now we have our changes, right? What I want to do is, so I will create a new branch for every new day. Okay, so today is day 3 of Java, so I'll create a new branch from here. So what I'll do is git checkout. How do you create a new branch? You will do git checkout minus b day 3. Now I am on day 3 branch, and let's start making changes. Okay, now what I'll do here is what I was trying to explain you, this thing, right? Let's say uh, I asked to add two numbers. Okay, so what I'll do is just follow along, right? Whoever doesn't understand how to get a method, leave it as of now. Okay, so I will say this thing. Okay, this is a method int a, let's say int b, and I will add a method saying here int c equals to a plus b, right? And I want to print this. Let's say whatever is my output. And the shortcut to write the system.out.print as you could write s out all small, press tab key. Okay, it will get auto completed. And over there you can type here sum is, right, c. Okay, and we are good with this. Now tell me one thing. We know that let's say if I have to run this method, right? How this gets executed? I told you yesterday, like when you run your program, right? JVM looks out for this method which has this signature, and if it finds one, it makes an invocation to this main, and that is how your code was getting printed here. But now I have a new method with the name as sum, right? The method name is sum, and I want to invoke this. When I say invoke this, I want to run the logic inside this. What do you think? How can I run this?
Comment that first method so that it does not get executed.
Okay, great. Let's do this. Now tell me what will happen.
So this method should be invoked, right?
There is no main.
Main execution will start from main JVM.
Hmm.
So we need to call this method, this sum method from the main method by passing a and b.
Right. Now, Siali, why did you think like if I remove this code, right? I mean, if I let's me remove all this, right? Let me cut it out, right?
Okay.
Now I have only this code. If I want to run this code, right? How this can be executed? Do you think like if I run this Podtest now, although you can see, right? Let me just save this, right? And over here, it is still giving Podtest to run. Let's say, right? If I run this, let's see, do I get anything here? As you said, right? We'll see. We should see an output saying sum is 3, right? Oh, sorry. Again, I have not given the input for this A and B as of
No.
now,
No.
right? So I need to provide that input.
Yeah.
So you're understanding, right? Someone needs to make an invocation for this method, and you are thinking currently that how main was getting executed. Similarly, the sum will also get executed, right?
Yeah.
And how the main was getting executed using JVM. So if your understanding is like JVM will try to will find this sum method and invoke this, then your understanding is incorrect. Okay. The understanding is the understanding should be that the JVM always looks for a main method with that signature. When I say signature, it is the complete thing here over here, right? So what was the signature? Public static void main,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then within the bracket it should have string, which is an array, and then ours, right? Whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it finds that method, only that method can be invoked to JVM. There is no way that you can invoke this method here now. You can see I tried to run it. I am getting some errors. Let's see. See here. It is saying main method not found in class. Please define the main method. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's do one thing. Let's create the main method. Okay. For everyone, learn the shortcut of creating a main method also. What you can do is just type main and press tab.
And press
It gets-
tab.
Yes, press tab. Okay. It gets created here, right? I do not know all the shortcuts of IntelliJ. So if you know any of the shortcuts, please help me build my understanding also, right? But whatever I know, I will try to share. Okay. So over here, right? So this is the main method now, right? So it follows that signature. Now, and okay, so this is how it is. Now I was adding here, what I did add? S out, sorry. SOUT, all small, press tab, and I was typing here. My name is Akhil Jain. And one mistake which I wanted to point, which Atif did. Atif, you added a plus in your code, right? For these two things. There is no need, right? You could place everything inside the single
yes.
double quote, right? Okay,
Because it is a string.
because you're not accepting it from an outside world, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, if you are accepting an argument, you could use plus concat to do a concatenation. There was no need as of now. Okay, okay. Moving ahead. Now over here, right? You have a main method now, Sally. Right? You have a main method now, and if you run this program now, right? If I run on this play button, what this will now what will happen? Tell me. If I run a play button now, what will happen this time?
I think still it will not give you the value because we haven't declared any values, no? What A and B should be.
Fine, but will there be an execution this time, or will I see an error like this?
No, execution should be there.
And what should
I
be the
think
output
my
then?
name is Akhil should be there. It should show at least that part, right?
Okay, so it should be there, right? So everyone agrees, right? Let's run this and see the output. Right, my name is Akhiljan, right? It is getting printed. Why? Because JVM, when got executed, it found this main method and it executed this. But whatever logic I wrote for doing an addition is not getting executed. How to execute this? Let's say my understanding was that I created the logic, why it is not getting executed. Let's say I remove these parameters, let's say, and I gave it as, I do it as 5 plus 6 here itself, right? Now, if someone thinks like, okay, my method does not need an input, right, to be given. So someone does not need to provide any inputs. So this method should get executed or not, Sally?
It should get executed, I think. I think we are not passing any values. It should get, but still method is correct, right?
Method is correct. There is no
It will
syntax
get
error.
executed. Yeah, it will show.
Okay, now tell me, if you say it will get executed, who will execute this? Where is the code to execute this? Do you think that Java will just start running from line 1 saying, okay, I ran this line, public class Podtest, okay, it is getting executed. Okay, let me move to the next line. There is space, nothing to execute. Then it reached here and it ran this line. And after this line, it went inside the brackets to run this. So it printed this line. And then it went to the next line. And then it moved to this line. It read this and it printed this and this. Do you think it works this way?
So do you mean to say we also need to give the method again, or we need to modify something over here?
We need to do that, but first I
Yeah.
want to understand, like, what do you think? Do you think Java runs like this, like it just goes one by one and starts doing whatever we have written here?
So doesn't it go one by one the way it works in C?
See, over C also, right? In C also it happens this way only, right? Like,
Yeah.
the things are same. But what I'm trying to point out here is that your logic here, right, is sitting inside a method, which is this, right?
Yeah.
Someone needs to call this method, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Someone needs to call this method to get this executed. Okay,
Yeah.
my point is on this only as of now, right? I'm just trying to focus on this part. Like, no one should have a doubt that you just created a logic inside a method and you expect it to run automatically. No, it will not run automatically. You will have to invoke this method. How do you invoke a method? Let's learn this. Okay, how do you create a, again, to invoke this method, right? There are a lot of things which you have to understand, but let me do one thing. Let me make this very simple. What I'll do as of now is let me add, okay, let me do it the right way. In Java, what I've done here is, see, I'll show you both the ways, right? First of all, you can see it's a static method, right? The main method is the one which gets called from JVM, right? So let me try to be elaborative here. See this part. Tutorial whiteboard. Let's try to understand. Okay. Now see here, right? So we have a program saying Podtest, right? Podtest.java, right? This program Podtest.java, and I decided to run this, right? As soon as I tried to run this, right, again the same process will be happening. It will be getting compiled, so it will generate Podtest.class file, which is your bytecode, right? And this bytecode will go inside your JVM. Your JVM. Now JVM looks for the main method, right? It will look for the main method. It will find that main method here, but whatever that method is, and here it found this method. So it will go inside this and it sees the first line, which is to print your name, right? So it printed this line, right? After this, within the same method, you see this line, podtest.sum, right? Now podtest.sum, for people who understand Java already, I'm just explaining for them. See, this main method is a static method. Okay. Now I wanted to invoke this method somehow. So what I did was, so the only option which I had was that I need to make an invocation of this inside the main method, right? Because I already have a control on the main method from JVM. So main method is already running once you execute the program. Now, as part of the execution, it will first run this line, and then whatever line you would have written here, it will get executed. Now you can see I've written podtest.sum, right? Now this is where the invocation of the sum is happening. So as soon as this line gets executed, right, it will try to find this sum method inside this class Podtest, right? This is here. So now the control will move to this method, which is sum, and whatever inside is written, it will get executed. Sally, you understand this part, right? How the control will
Yeah.
now be able to
Yeah.
run some method, right?
Yes, yes.
Now for people, right, who understand Java, understand like currently I'm making use of these static variables, this static keyword to run my method. Okay. So since main was the static method, let me see. If I remove this, okay, I can still run some here. Just a second. Okay, this thing I have to clarify actually. There is some rule here which I have to understand. Just a second. If I run it again, now see this. This is static, na? That's why. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Just a second. And we are in the same class, right? That's why I can just write some here also, and it should work. I'll show you. Let's see the output first, just to make sure, right, that it works, right? You can see this time it is working. So what is happening is JVM invoked this method main, and it started running whatever it would be there inside this method, right? It first ran this line. My name is Akhil Jain, and then it tried to run this line. Now here, this is how you invoke a method. You give the name of the method here, which is sum, and if there was any parameter, you would have passed those parameters. But since there is no parameter, you just uh, close the brackets, and then you're invoking it. Now what will happen is, as soon as this line gets invoked, it will try to find this method here in the Podtest class. It found one, so it will just directly go inside this method. It ran this line. Now C is what? C equals to 5 plus 6, 11. And here I'm printing sum is 11, right? So this is getting printed. Right, everyone? I think there is no confusion here, right? And again, for people who are coming from Java background, see, if I remove this static here, right, you will see you cannot run the sum here. Why? Because you're trying to run a piece of code in a static method here, right? We'll try to understand what is static, non-static in the future classes, but try to see if you do not have a static method, right? Like this. This is not a static method, right? It's not a static method. And this main method is a static method. So the rule in Java is that if you want to if you intend, I mean, what you can access inside a static method is the either the static methods of the class or the static variables, right? Nothing else. Okay, you cannot access it. So what is happening here is, since sum is not a static method anymore, you cannot access it. You can see non-static method sum cannot be referenced from a static context. We will go inside this, but as of now, just understand, right? So what you have to do is, the first solution is make it as static. Okay. Now, when you make something as static, right, it means that you can access that thing just using the class name. So the second way of doing this was, you could write here podtest sum. This will also work. Let me comment this out. Okay. So you are using the name of the class, and then you're using .sum. Okay. Again, both of the approaches, right, are there if you want to run a static method. Let's say this was not a static method. Let's remove this. Now, how to invoke this method? If I write sum here as of now, it will not run. Again, because of the rule of static thing, right, in Java. How to run this? So for doing this, right, what you have to do is, this is a class, right? This is a class which you have created. Now there's a concept of creating an object. What is an object? What does it do? What is the meaning of it? We'll get to it. Okay, maybe in the next class itself. We have to first understand what is a class, what is an object, what is a method, what is a variable. We will see this in the next class. But just to complete the flow here, see here. What you will do this time is, you need to first create the object of the class. What is the class here? Sally, what is the class here?
Class Podtest.
Podtest, right? Podtest is the class, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
what you need to do is, you need to create the object of that class. How do you create the object of the class? You use Podtest here. Okay, before typing in here, let me show you on the board first. See here, if you have to create the object of a class, the syntax, remember the syntax. The syntax is syntax to create an object, create an object of a class. How do you do it? You will first now. Okay, Sally, tell me, if I have to create a variable of string type, or let's say integer type, what should I write? Let's say I have a need to create a variable I of type int. What should be my syntax here?
Int only, then it should be starting from int.
Int, and then a variable name.
Variable name,
Let's say
anything.
a. Let's say
Yeah,
a, right?
yeah.
And then let's say I need to assign a value. So what I'll do? I'll say
Equal to, yeah.
and then I
equal-
will assign a value here, right? It's a 5.
Yeah, yes.
Right? I will do this way. So this is a
Yes.
normal data type of a variable, let's say a, right? If I
Yeah.
have to, when I'm saying I have to create an object of a class, let's try to understand the syntax. The syntax is, you will first provide the class name, okay? A class name, right? This is the class name. Then you will provide a variable name for it, right? You can compare it to this. Like this is your what? This is a data type,
Data type, yeah.
right?
Is the variable name, yeah.
So in the same way, understand you have to first provide class name, which is your data type. Okay, we'll come to that. I think it will take some more classes to understand why I'm saying your class is a data type. Okay, but let's move ahead. So, but the syntax you can understand, like that we are trying to create a variable only here. So you have to provide a class name. What is your class name? Podtest.
Podtest.
So I'll provide a podtest. I need to give a variable name,
A.
like a here, right? So what I'll do is I'll say p. Okay, p1. Let's say. Okay, any variable name you can give p1. Let's say.
Yeah.
And then I will use equal to sign as I am doing here. And then I need to provide a value here. What value should I provide? How do you create an object? To create an object in Java, you should be using a new keyword. Remember this, right? You have to write this. If you want to create an object of a class, you have to use a new keyword. Okay. And after using the new keyword, you have to type in the class name again. What is the class name? And you have to close these brackets like this. Okay. So what you will do is new. What is your class name? Podtest, right?
Podtest.
So you will do something like this, close the brackets and this. So this is your syntax now. Okay. And compare it to your normal. How do you create a variable? It is very similar to this, right? Here you're providing the class name, which is your data type, right? You're telling what is P1. P1 is a variable of what type?
Yeah.
Podtest type. Okay. Understand in that context, right? You let's say you created this line and I'm using P1 and I'm doing something on this. Now people will ask, okay, I can see P1. What exactly is a P1? So where do you need to check? You will check its data type. Data type is what? Podtest, right? Data type of P1 is Podtest. Okay. Okay. Just remember as a name that P1, that the class name of P1 is what? Podtest. Forget about data type. Okay. So from here, right, you can understand like what is P1? P1 is Podtest. So we're creating an object of it. Now the syntax is Podtest, the class name, the variable name which you would provide, then a equals to thing like how you were doing here. Then here you have to just on the right hand side, you are providing like a value to it. How do you provide a value? You're saying new Podtest and these brackets. Okay. And now what you can do is now using this thing, right? This is called as reference variable actually, but just understand like an object as of now P1, right? Now you will do a dot on it, P1 dot, and whatever methods your class will have, right? You will get access to all those methods and you can access them. Let's see. So what I'll do is here, I said Podtest. What should I type here? Let me ask Madhugar. Madhugar, what should I type here after Podtest? Give me a variable name.
Dot sum.
No. I have not even written the.
Okay. You want to create an object.
Object, yes.
Yeah, like you can name anything, like any
Tell me.
reference name.
What should I write?
Like
P1.
P1 is fine. Yeah.
Okay, then
Equal to
right.
New.
Okay.
New is a keyword. Yeah, and Podtest, the class name.
The class name, right? And then I have to do what?
It's a parameter, so you have to open the bracket and
open the brackets and then close the brackets, right? And then in the end, what should I type? I mean, what should I enter here?
semicolon.
Semicolon, right? So remember, semicolon is very important. After every line, you have to make sure that you are adding semicolons, right? So that it marks the end of your line. Okay, that is what it does. Now we created an object of my Podtest class, and the name of that object as of now is, let's say, P1. Actually, we'll come to the terminology, the exact terminology which we should be knowing. This is called as object. This is called as reference variable. Okay, and this on the right hand side is called an object. But again, just to make things simple, I'm saying P1 is an object. Now what I'm saying is you can access all the things inside Podtest using this P1. How? By typing P1 first and then using a dot. Now see this. You are able to access some method now, right? You can see this some method, right? All the other methods which are coming, just ignore as of now. We'll come to that part. But see this only, right? Some method, some is there, and you will, and to your surprise, you will see main method here also. Okay, why main is not shown? Just a second. Main should be shown. Okay, I cannot type main here. I was thinking main should be available. Static member accessed via instance reference. Access static via class Podtest. It is saying, okay, but I should be able to access through this also. Why it is complaining? It is saying that it's a static variable. Okay, let me not confuse you as of now. Just let's make it simple somewhere. Okay, now our purpose is solved. So earlier we were accessing sum when it was static, right? Using this part, like directly using sum and Podtest.sum. But now if it is not static, this is how you do it. You have to create the instance of you have to create the object of a class and then use that object to access the method. Now if you run this now, right, you will see the same.
Why not directly P1.sum? Why Podtest P1 is equal to new Podtest?
Why not? Sorry, which line?
That P1.sum, the way we used it, not this thing. Why not directly only that much?
I am not getting, like, what should I write? What should I remove this?
I mean,
He's saying why line number 10.
Why we need to give this? And this also means I understand that is the practice. It won't work without that. But then why not directly the thing which we gave later after this P1 dot method name?
What is P1 now? I have commented this line. Let me remove this. What is P1 here?
Okay, it will not understand what is P1. That's why we
No
are.
one will understand, right? P1 system needs to know what is P1.
Yeah.
What is P1? It's an object of that class. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got your answer, right?
Yeah.
Right? Let's run this. See the output, sum is 11, right? Okay. Let's go back to our triangle. Oh, I missed. Okay, my board got. Okay, let me write it here again. Okay. So what did we learn? That in a programming language, I'm saying irrespective of any programming language, Java, Python, C#, C, C++, whatever that language is, you need to know some basic building blocks of like how programming works, right? So how programming works, if you have to understand that, you have to understand some of the core concepts. One is that there is a need to understand about different data types. Okay, different data types. The first thing, int, float, double, string, char, boolean, right? There are many more. Okay, so different data types. Second thing is you should be knowing how to create a variable. How to create a variable. In Java, the concept is you have to provide the data type first, then the variable name, and then equal, and then the value. So this is the syntax. Okay, this is the syntax. Example of it is like int a equals to 5. The third thing, you should be knowing how to write conditional statements, conditional logic. So conditional logic you can use by using if else and switch. And if some other languages provide some other options, then you should be knowing those. In Java, just using these two are sufficient. The fourth thing, the looping. If you have to repeat things multiple times, you should be knowing about while loop, do while, for loop, and I think these are sufficient. Within the for loop, there are two variants of for loop: a classic for loop, and there's a variant, another variant for each loop. Okay, we'll talk about these. Now, the fifth option is you should be knowing about these where you add your logic. Your logic resides inside the class. You can have methods, and inside the methods, you will add your logic. Okay. Now we also understood here that to invoke this method, right? you will have, I mean, it is not that automatically whatever you've written inside the method will get executed. There is a need, there is a duty on you that you have to invoke those methods in a way where which is good for you, right? Whatever you think needs to be executed, you have to make sure that you're writing that logic as well. So what I did here is you need to invoke those methods, right? Invoke the required methods. And in case of Java, we understood that we will have to create the object of the class, create object of the class, and then access the method of that class using that object. What I mean by this is you will do something like this: Podtest p1 equals to new Podtest. This is your object creation, the first thing. The second thing is p1 dot sum. Okay. And in case of Java, this the last part, I mean, just for Java, right? You should be knowing about why main method is important and how it is getting executed. If you understand these core concepts, right, I think this is very good enough, right, for anyone who is not aware about Java. Okay. So